Dr. Tracy Weeden, thank you so much for giving us your time. The Neuhaus Education Center has such a profound legacy in promoting reading success, both in adults and children. And so I am particularly interested in hearing from you about what the pandemic's impact has been on progress of reading education, and as a result of that, what the Neuhaus Education Center is particularly focusing on right now.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity, Kelly. I'm so honored to be here with you today in this space. And I have such respect for educators right now who are fighting tooth and nail to ensure our students continue to grow in spite of the challenges the pandemic has presented us with. I defined this moment as our COVID chrysalis as an organization. We had a choice to become victim to it or to allow it to help us reinvent ourselves in the way we advance our mission of reading success for all. What we're hearing from our stakeholders is that our children have lost a lot of ground. For some children, effectively, they haven't been in school for almost 2 years. That's a tremendous amount of learning loss. In some cases where they have deeply entrenched ways of delivering reading instruction grounded in the science of reading research, they haven't had as much slippage because the teachers pre-pandemic had been set up for success and knew how to accelerate closing the gaps that the children have experienced. A really strong teacher who understands how to apply pedagogy can move children even faster. In some districts, they are having children loop up a grade with the teacher. So that teacher doesn't have to start all over getting to know the children, getting to know the families. They can pick right up where they left off with that kid and accelerate their learning. So where I see in some cases, children falling further and further behind than ever before, for our districts that have really embraced the science of reading research, they are in a great place to make up the ground that has been lost. First of all, I can speak from personal experience as well, because I grew up in inner city Detroit. And there was a dialect that was my neighborhood dialect, the dialect I was loved in. And then there was structured academic English, which was the expectation in the schoolhouse. It's also the expectation in the boardroom in different spaces and places. People make certain assumptions about an individual based upon how they show up. Does it mean that because I have a strong dialect from Appalachia, or I have a strong dialect from being a second language learner, an English language learner, where my primary language I'm loved in is not English? No, it doesn't mean that my capacity is diminished. It means I bring a different currency, if you will. If we think of the language as currency, we want to make sure children have access to honoring the dialect and the language they're loved in and making sure they're able to use that in the places where they're loved, but also being able to access what I call the language of power. And that's a relative term. In our country, that's academic English. And so when we intentionally unpack the structure of the English language, from the phoneme all the way up to morphology, word parts, prefixes and suffixes, the things that help us be able to create and understand new words, then I have a place at any table that I want to be at. And every child deserves that opportunity. 64% of our children are not proficient readers nationally. 64%. Think about that. So in a knowledge economy, with the currency being academic English, if I want a place at the table, if I want to be able to work remotely and have this moment like we are right now, I've got to have that currency. So among that group of students, some of them are dyslexic. And it's estimated by experts, it's 15 to 20% of the population. And it's not something you're cured of. If you're dyslexic, it's something that you're going to grapple with your whole life, but it doesn't mean you can't become a skilled reader. It just means that the brain is wired differently to acquire that skill. We come here wired for language. The baby comes out, starts talking and babbles, right?
Right.
But reading is something we have to teach explicitly in a structured way and cumulatively, so that over time, as we go into high school, we're still learning the structure of the language and becoming more and more expert at it. So for children with dyslexia, on average, it costs $50 an hour for therapy, up to $250 an hour for therapy. So for a family that is on the edge of poverty and they have to pick between therapy and they have to pick between groceries.
Yeah.
What are we
Food
going
on the table? Right.
And so for me, it's a human right that we need to fight for every person, regardless of zip code in our country. And in systems where they want to make sure they're serving children with dyslexia, those school districts are building capacity, experts who can provide the therapy and the intervention that children deserve. And it's really crucial, I should add too, in special education classrooms. I'll never forget going to a prison and spending a day with 60 inmates trying to earn a GED. Some of these men found out they were dyslexic when they entered the prison system.
Right, right.
And so that's too late.
Yeah.
And our goal is to backload what needs to happen, working with universities, for example, to reinvent pre-service teacher preparation and leader preparation. So those hardworking educators know how to do, again, the right work, to organize the systems so that no child falls through the cracks and there's a literacy safety net in place. It's never too late to learn to read. We have 18 to 85-year-olds at night learning from therapists with Neuhaus to read for the first time. And one of the best stories is we have a young woman who has a daughter with dyslexia. She's dyslexic. She was a teaching assistant, and those wages are very low. This summer, she passed her teaching certification assessments, and she is teaching children to learn. Gives me goosies.
It does me too. That's fantastic.
We transform the family tree through literacy.
Well, and certainly as president and CEO of the Neuhaus Education Center, you are doing a beautiful job leading the way in that effort. And I know that you feel that the center has been a source of innovation during the pandemic, but it really has been all along. And thank you so much for your leadership. And again, thank you for sharing your time with me today.
It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you for making the time for this conversation.
Oh, you're so welcome.